Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a little chat on a topic that has been preying on my mind lately. And that topic is how historical performance is killing classical music. And I mean killing. I mean dead. I mean dead. Death. You get it? And I think I have a very simple way of showing it. I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's a fact. I really do. At least from the perspective of someone who gets to hear just about everything that gets recorded. Now, what's happening out there in the real world of live performance? Well, I only know what is around me. I can't make an assessment about what's happening in the greater world, but I can do it with recordings. And what I hear on recordings, I find enormously disturbing. And I'm going to do it by talking about one issue as sort of a paradigmatic demonstration of what I think the problem is. I'm not going to give another lecture on the stupidity of the vibrato people. I'm not going to give another lecture on playing pieces obviously meant for large forces with teeny, tiny chamber ensembles because it's cheaper. We all know how stupid that is. And it doesn't make any difference because these people make a living doing stupid things. And there are listeners who will pay them to do stupid things. Nothing we can do about that. But this is something which I think is really quantifiable. And I think it raises an issue that is worth throwing out there to see what you all make of it. So what I'm talking about is tempo. Now, a lot of people have said that the period instrument movement is wonderful because it's speeded things up. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I think performance could use a good jolt, especially performance of repertoire from the classical period. It was sort of sounding a little lazy and soggy in many, many performances. Of course, there were always great artists who did not play them lazily and soggily. But what the period performance movement achieved was to change the mean, a paradigm shift. Now it's much harder to play that music in a lazy and soggy way than it used to be because you will be laughed at and you will be spat upon. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I give him credit for it. Let's give him credit for it. No. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking specifically about the tempo of the adagio in the ninth. Yes. Beethoven's Last Symphony and the Adagio. And I have here 20 recordings of it, 10 of which you might call the normal stuff, and 10 which you might call period-influenced period performance. Some are actual period instrument performances. Some are performances on modern instruments by conductors who have adopted or drank the Kool-Aid, adopted the poison pill of period instrument orthodoxy, let's just say. And let's see what happens with it. I think this is a very interesting little demonstration. So let's start with the old performances, some of which aren't that old, but performances in the traditional style, shall we say. Now, the traditional style involved timings that varied rather widely. And that's what I want to look at. I want to focus on the breadth of timing, the difference between fast and slow in the performances of this one movement. So let's start. We have here Erich Leinsdorf, and we're just going to go through them. And if I can find the timing, which I know I can somewhere. Okay, here we are. We have 14 minutes and 8 seconds. 14 minutes and 8 seconds is a little bit is quick by modern standards. It really is, as you're going to see. And we have Karl Schuricht. Karl Schuricht for the Adagio, the great singing Adagio, molto cantabile, and all of that stuff is, let's see, it's Adagio molto e cantabile, pardon me. And then Andante moderato, he's 16 minutes and 13 seconds. So 2 minutes slower than Leinsdorf with the orchestra, by the way, that had the longest continuous Beethoven tradition of performance in the history of mankind. Then we have Michael Gielen. Michael Gielen, a modernist, right? He's a modern guy. He's 13 minutes and 26 seconds. Let's hang on to this. There will be a reason. Gielen, 13:26. It's worth considering. Then we have Herbert Blomstedt with the Staatskapelle Dresden, his first cycle. And he is 16 minutes and 24 seconds. So what are we averaging now? 14, 16 in that area. Bernstein, I know what this is. This is about 17 minutes and a half. So let's just call it 17 and a half. That's about right, 17:20, something like that. 17 and a half on the slower side. And then we have Hermann Scherchen. Scherchen's very interesting, of course, because Scherchen was, into metronome markings. And so it's cool to see what he did with the ninth, because in his observance of metronome markings, he decided that the adagio of the ninth, and I'm not doing the tie thing for every bit of the ninth, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. Is, let's see, wait a minute, almost there. There it is. Oh my. Oh, what is this? Let me see. 16 minutes and 14 seconds. Is that what that is? Or is it 18? Yeah. 16 minutes and 14 seconds. So he's not too worried about the metronome marking in that particular case, is he? And then, of course, we have to look at Toscanini. And here he is. Toscanini is... Okay, Toscanini is... There's 7, there's 8, and he's 14 minutes and 21 seconds. A little slower than Leinsdorf. I think that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Slightly slower. And Zell, by the way, is exactly the same as Toscanini. Then we have Klemperer. Everyone's going to go, oh God, Klemperer, granitic Klemperer, the big heavy-duty German guy. And the big heavy-duty German guy does it quite marvelously, actually. He does it in, if I can find, up there it is, 15 minutes and 2 seconds, 15 minutes even, which is decidedly closer to Toscanini. Very, very comparatively zippy. But then Klemperer never conducted slow music slow, because he wasn't sentimental about things. He never dawdled, which is kind of cool. Then we've got, of course, Leibowitz, who was one of the first people to really take seriously Beethoven's metronome markings, and he is 12 minutes and 31 seconds. That is decidedly on the fast side. Very, very fast side. So 12 minutes and 31 seconds. But then, of course, we must look at Furtwängler, because you can't talk about Beethoven's ninth without dealing with Furtwängler. And let's see, Furtwängler is, where is Furtwängler? Yes, 19 minutes and 32 seconds. So there you go. What is the range of acceptable, legitimate, valid tempo fluctuation in the adagio of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? It's about 7 minutes. It goes from 13 minutes to really almost 20 minutes. There's some that are 20 minutes. Schulte, I think, is about 20 minutes. There's some that are on that side of 20 minutes. So let's just say, Leibowitz was 12 and a half, so let's say it goes 7 minutes of difference. And you never know when you put on a new performance of the ninth or a new recording of the ninth what you were going to get. That was one of the exciting things about it, because there was room for the interpreter to interpret. Now let's look at 10 historically informed, period instrument, 100% authentic, true to the facts, utterly valid performances which pay some sort of lip service to Beethoven's actual metronome, because that's how they get where they are. It's the metronome, even though we know that Beethoven had his grave doubts about it, and some of them his markings are impossible, and he never heard what some of it sounded like, and all kinds of reasons you should ignore his metronome markings, by and large. But hey, it's only music. Let's see what happens. So the first one I have here is the orchestra of the Wiener Academy on Alpha with Martin Hasselbach. And Hasselbach does this at, where is he? They got pictures. They got all kinds of stuff in this booklet. None of it's in any particular order. But let me find it. Up there it is. Fine. He is 13 minutes and 41 seconds. So he's really about the same as Toscanini, about the same as Leinsdorf. He's a little faster than Leibowitz. He's right around the same time as Michael Gielen. He and Michael Gielen would get along well. And of course, they're sort of the same area. So maybe that's why. So 13 minutes and 41 seconds. that is one sort of guidepost. And now we have Adam Fischer with the Danish Chamber Orchestra on Naxos. This is a fairly new one. And let me see if it's not in the book. It's on the back of the disc. So we have to look at this one. 12 minutes and 12 seconds. Whoa, baby. Yeah. Watch it fly by in a blur. 12 minutes and 12 seconds there. And then we've got David Zinman. Zinman was one of the first modern orchestra guys to use like New Edition and take modern instruments and really let them have it, period-wise. And he is, oh my goodness, 11 minutes and 31 seconds. Unbelievable. Also quite zippy, similar to Fischer. And then we have Gardner. Remember him? John Elliott, JEG, who goes running around all over Europe doing Bach cantata cycles that nobody really wants to hear. Yes, him. 12 minutes and 5 seconds. 12 minutes. So he's right in between 11 and 13. And we've got Thomas Dalsgaard with the Swedish Chamber Orchestra Orebro. And he is 12 minutes and 37 seconds. And then we've got my good buddy Charlie Mackerras, who, as you know, I just love his work, generally speaking. And here he has, this is with his Royal Liverpool cycle on modern instruments. And he is 11 minutes and 55 seconds. So he's right on the money in terms of metronomity. And we have Paavo Järvi with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen. Fabulous group, amazing players. And we've got 13 minutes and 15 seconds. So he's also in the ballpark with Gieland and Hasselbach and those people. Then let's look at, look at this. We've got Ricardo Chailly with the Gewandhaus, his new cycle with the Gewandhaus. Let me see, where is that? Here it is. I could do it this way. Thank goodness these books have little thingies. 12 minutes and 51 seconds. That's a very, very period-y performance, isn't it? And then I just got this the other day. I'm in the middle of listening to it. Jordi Savall and the Concert, whatever it's called here, des Nations. Yes, those people. Because 1 and 5 came out in a separate one of these sort of sloppy, hard to deal with, unfoldy paper things. So let's see what he did. If I can find it in here. There's the orchestra, both of them, all 6 people, and let's see. There's a choir of half a person, and here we go. Here it is, 11 minutes and 22 seconds. So he's right on the ball with Zinman and the Zippier and Mackerras, Zippier period people. And now I am concluding with Blomstedt again. This is his Leipzig Gewandhaus remake cycle, which he claims is based on Beethoven's metronome markings that he has studied assiduously. And remember his first one. That was 16 minutes and a bit. This one is 13:23. Oh, Herbie, say it ain't so, Herbie. What happened to you? You've joined the witless lemmings going over the cliff. That's what's happened to you. 13 minutes and 23 seconds. Oh. So, what can we learn? What we learn is that the group of people who were involved in traditional performances had performances ranging from a little more than 12 to a little more than 19, 7 minutes in a movement, which if it only lasts 12, that's more than 50%, difference. I mean, that's huge. That's almost double speed. One is half the speed of the other. Close enough, 60% the speed of the other. What do we find with the period instrument people and those influenced thereby? Well, they range from about 11 minutes and 30 seconds to about 13 minutes and 30 seconds. 2 minutes. Count them. 1, 2. 2 minutes of difference. What does this mean? What it means is that the imagination is getting sucked out of music making. what we're getting is cookie cutter performances. And the reason is obvious. The reason is because period instrument practice, the actual practice, is simply a collection of negative proscriptions and some positive rules. The rule, follow the metronome. The negative, no vibrato. The negative, none of this, none of that. You will use gut strings. You won't use valves. You won't do this. You won't do that. You have to do this. You have to do that in order for it to sound recognizably historically informed. The result of that is that it has taken choice out of the equation. Now, it has done some things on the plus side. Like I said, you hear performances of classical repertoire that tend to be zippier and more cutting rhythmically and maybe more forcefully accented now and again. Very good. I'm all for it. All for it. But the fact is, the best performances of that repertoire always had those qualities. Always. Always. Absolutely. And the detriment is that people no longer have a choice about what they're going to do in order to be taken seriously. They have sacrificed individuality for uniformity. And you have these, like I said, cookie cutter performances, even by people as different as Herbert Blomstedt and Martin Hasselbach and John Eliot Gardner and, all these people. They're all turning in 12-minute adagios. And nobody ever bothers to think and stop and think, well, does the music sound better that way? Why did it get slower? Did it get slower because, it couldn't be because people couldn't play it. Everyone agrees the standard of playing's gotten better. It couldn't be because we have valves and metal strings. They don't make the music slower. It couldn't be because orchestras are bigger. It couldn't be. Yeah, big, flabby orchestras tend to play things a little bit more slowly at times, depending on where they are, what the room is, and all that stuff. But here we have traditional performances that are in the 13 to 14 minute range, and no one has any problem with it. Erich Leinsdorf gets in on 14 minutes. He's only 30 seconds slower than the slowest of these period instrument people. So that's not the issue. Could it be that maybe people play it slower because the music sounds better that way? Could it be that instruments got valves and strings got rebuilt and bows got lengthened because the music sounds better that way? Because people heard it and they changed something, and when they changed it, they were the ones who knew what it sounded like originally, and they said, oh wow, that sounds better in every respect. Could it be perhaps that when people finally understood Beethoven's Ninth, not the original people who heard it performed maybe once or twice in their lifetime, if they were lucky, if they heard it at all. We're talking about once the music's meaning and message and emotional range began to soak in, people began to understand that having an adagio that is the shortest movement in the symphony, shorter even than the scherzo with repeats, all of which you have to take, maybe that was stupid. Maybe that shortchanged what the potential of the music was. And even if that's true, let's say as an argument that I'm right, that that's exactly what happened, that everyone finally understood Beethoven's Ninth and they realized it sounded better if you took it slower, and that notwithstanding the silly metronome marking, it really ought to be done that way better. There were still some people who always had the potential, like Rene Leibowitz, to go back and follow Beethoven's metronome marking and make the adagio shorter than the scherzo, if that's what they wanted to do. And it would be a surprise because it would be something special and unique within the context of what everyone else was doing. And that's my point. Getting a new recording of this work used to be exciting because you didn't know what was going to happen, because the range of legitimate interpretation was wide. And there was always the possibility that a crazy guy like Celibidache could come along, or a modern dodecaphonic nutcase like Leibowitz could pop up, or a David Zinman even on the other side. And they could shake you up by doing something radically different. And we accepted that it was radically different and that it was okay. to be radically different. But period instrument, folks, no way. It is not okay to be radically different. Show me a period instrument guy, a real, honest to goodness, authentic instrument ensemble that's going to spend 18 minutes over the slow movement of Beethoven's Ninth and not be destroyed. Show me a group that could actually sustain that tempo anyway and like not have you want to throw up because of the sound of the string instruments. I mean, it's just a terrible thing. We are getting destroyed. The classics need room to breathe. They need room for interpreters to interpret, to show us something that we haven't heard before. And that's not what's happening now. What we're getting is cookie cutter performances. I could tell you, I didn't even have to look at Saval's timing. I knew what it was going to be. But how many people would have guessed Klemperer's? You understand what I'm saying? It's about the originality of the interpretive genius being free to do what they do. It's about the potential of the music to surprise us, to be constantly new and fresh. That's going. I'm telling you, friends, it is absolutely going out the window. And it's going to go out the window until somebody is able to find this sort of happy medium between taking some elements of period instrument orthodoxy and blending it with their right as an interpreter to play the music the way they see fit. Remember, I mean, it's happening. It's happening with some conductors. It is. I mean, it's not all like hopelessness. I don't mean to be completely nihilistic about it. But there is this large chunk of the business. And, you know, the irony of it, the thing that really annoys me is that, you know, I see in the comments to this channel people saying, well, I listen to non-period instrument performances. They're thick and they're heavy and they're slow and it's such bullshit. That is such ignorance because it's just not true. It's just not true at all. You can generalize about period instrument performances. You can, and have a very, very good chance of being correct. You cannot generalize about traditional performances because that's the whole concept of what it means to have a conductor with a personal interpretation of the music. You have to remember, when Beethoven wrote this music, there was no such thing as a conductor as we understand the term. The first one was Habeneck, who founded the Paris Conservatory Orchestra specifically for the purpose of playing Beethoven's symphonies in concert. But the modern conductor, as we understand the term, as an interpreter of the music, didn't exist. You know, I mean, yeah, there was a conductor at Beethoven's Ninth standing behind him doing this while he was like, whatever he was doing. And so, yeah, it was evolving. But metronome markings probably came in handy back in the day when there was no one to tell the orchestra what tempo to do. I mean, basically, you gave a tempo and then you just hoped, you know, and they would slow down or speed up or do whatever they would do. But that's the issue. And that's what disturbs me. I am afraid that we are being subjected, and it's a fact. This is happening. This is not an opinion. It's a fact. We're being subjected to these cookie cutter performances, these clones, one after the other, by artists who have no courage. They are ruled by fear. And that fear is fear of being castigated by horrible, awful musicological scholars who claim that because they know a fact that the whole world should be worshiping them and behaving according to how they say their fact tells them everyone should behave. I mean, that's not how music works or should work. It's awful. So they're afraid of academia. They're afraid of being different. It used to be great to be different. Now it's a curse. Anyway, I'm just done now. I know I've dribbled on even longer than I should. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is this. You know, what we used to get was the Ninth. And now what we have is the Ninth Which one would you rather see? Would you rather have that symphony being something special and revelatory and surprising and fresh and something we take seriously as a major statement? Or would you rather have some fat slob with no clothes on, the emperor, the naked emperor approach to Beethoven's Ninth? I hope that the answer is both visually and intellectually clear. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.